I think um, oftentimes managers or organizations or even frontline workers, they do have a difficult time navigating OSHA or regulatory requirements, particularly if they don't have a safety personnel on staff or on site. Uh, Admittedly so, it can be difficult navigating these siloed pieces of information. But I think uh, at a high level, there's a couple of things that managers and organizations can do about dealing um, with the ill impacts of heat and heat stress. And I'll talk about three of them. Number one, it's really to have what I would call a documented heat plan in place. So, it's about what we're going to do as an organization. What is our commitment to having a heat illness and prevention plan in place? Um, and foundational to that is really educating our employees. They need to understand the warning signs of what heat and heat stress can do to them. Be on the lookout for early signs and detection. Also understanding that there are benefits to heat resistant clothing. And then certainly understanding what we need to do in that plan if an individual or a worker succumbs to heat exhaustion. We want to make sure that we get them to emergency care or medical attention immediately. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, full-time employees, more seasoned employees typically take time off during the summer, which we're filling that gap with temporary workers. So orientating them into the organization, setting the expectations, the norms of what we have for a heat and illness or prevention plan. That education is really, really important, I think. Um, some things additionally that a manager can do um, during peak times of the day. I'm thinking, mid 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., where it's really the hottest of the day. If there's activities that can be done prior or after that time, I think in shade would make a lot of sense. So that's part of the heat plan, if you will. I think additionally, organizations and managers, um, they're talking on job sites, job safety analysis, job hazard analysis, where they're looking at the work that's being performed. They identify the hazards and then what control measures that the workers are doing to protect themselves from any type of hazard, um, be it chemical, confined space, working from heights, et cetera. Well, making that summer exposure or the exposure to rising temperatures is an additional hazard to the workplace. So it's including that into the job preparation plans for the day. As I mentioned, thinking about temperature, access to shade, what type of equipment we're using, what protective equipment that the employees are using. So it's part of the already existing job hazard analysis, if you will, whereas exposure to heat and heat illness is an additional hazard. And then lastly, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, ultimately, organizations and management have a responsibility under a general duty clause to provide a safe workplace to their organizations, and encouraging that culture of care and safety really starts with management at the top. So it's um, leaders endorse and then support um, communication, allowing a clear line of communication between the frontline workers and the management team, and proactively endorsing that if workers feel unsafe about the work they're doing, if the temperatures are rising, as an example, that they speak up and that their voices are actually heard. So that culture of care is another important part that managers can endorse, their support of a strong culture and how they can deal with heat illness on the work site.
Right. And you do raise a good point that managers should be able to identify, signs of heat exhaustion on the job site, because a lot of times we do have the frontline workers always having that, just got to push on through mentality. And it's up to the manager to kind of step in and be like, hey, why don't we take a break here? Why don't we take it easy here, or, implement some health related uh, solutions there. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Sorry, just one more point, Michael. It's all about a culture where we value employees' opinion and they have a safe place. Pardon the pun, unsafe, but where they can speak up free of retributions or retaliations, and their opinion does matter. And I think that's what we aspire for within worker health and safety for sure.